Discover the incredible connection, a giant cowboy's surprising wish for love and strong sons. Jack Big Tex Thompson had weathered more storms than he could count on his Texas ranch, but none felt as overwhelming as the one brewing within his own heart. Standing at 6'6", he towered over the rugged landscape and the legacy of his father's land, a sprawling expanse of dust and dreams. The sun dipped behind the hills, casting long shadows, as Jack's calloused hands worked the dirt, the only sound against the silence of his solitude. He poured everything into the ranch, each chore a reminder of his father's absence, a bittersweet loneliness that clawed at him while the open skies mocked his yearning for connection. His sons, Luke and Cody, had traded the family traditions of ranching for the allure of football. Their jerseys, emblazoned with numbers that no longer represented his plow-driving boys, sat at the bottom of his heart like stones, weighing him down. They laughed on the field, but Jack felt the distance, the wide gap between their dreams and his. Was he a failure as a father? Doubts gnawed at him, questions echoing in the vastness of the plains. If only the values he'd instilled hadn't been overshadowed by the bright lights of a football stadium. Then came the knock. A corporate giant, slick and polished, eager to buy the land that held his family's history. Jack's stomach twisted. They wanted to erase generations with a check written to undo the fabric of their existence. The thought made him tremble. Could he fight this? He wrestled with feelings of inadequacy, realizing the fight was for more than land. It was for the heart of his family, a legacy he feared would slip through his fingers like sand. Jack recalled the wisdom of Earl, the old cowboy whose presence felt like a solitary rock in a stream of chaos. Love is a bond built through struggle, Earl had said during one of their quiet talks under the vast Texas sky. It's not just about blood, it's holding the line when the stakes are high. It seems so simple, but Jack's heart ached with longing for that closeness with Luke and Cody. How could he make them see that their legacy wasn't just about touchdowns, but about the lives they impact, the roots that ran deep? As the standoff escalated, the pressure was suffocating. The corporate predator didn't relent, and doubts crawled back in, whispering that he wasn't enough. Each day felt like an uphill battle. Could he rally his sons to fight for their heritage? A storm brewed within him, but he couldn't allow himself to shelter under it. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That night, as Jack stood outside, watching the stars blink into existence over the rolling hills, a wave of desperation washed over him. This was more than land, it was the heartbeat of his family, the heritage that he fought to uphold. As he approached the boardroom the next day, he felt the eyes of his sons on him, not just as spectators but as potential warriors ready to defend not just a piece of land but an entire way of life. Uncertainty gripped him. Would love and hope be enough to stand tall against the tides of corporate greed? Jack took a deep breath, muscles tightly coiled, heart racing with the weight of those who'd come before him. The silence before a storm, the moment just before his voice could raise. Would they stand unified, or was this the beginning of their unraveling? As Jack strode into the boardroom, the corporate giant's polished veneer stood in stark contrast to his own rugged demeanor. The room buzzed softly with the hum of high-tech gadgets and expensive furniture, symbols of a world he didn't belong to. Yet within that suffocating space, a spark ignited in him. This wasn't just about land, it was a battle for the values he held dear, for the laughter that used to ring throughout the ranch, for memories attached to every inch of dust that had settled. Big Tex, the corporate representative, sneered, "You're not really considering holding on to this place, are you? What can it truly give you that a handsome sum can't?" The man's words dripped with condescension, but Jack felt a fire igniting in his chest. He opened his mouth to respond, but hesitated. Could he articulate the weight of love, legacy, and loss into a single sentence? Luke and Cody shuffled uncomfortably beside him, the tension between father and sons palpable. Jack's gaze darted between them, searching for the sliver of unspoken support he hoped to find. They were young men now, no longer the little boys who ran through the fields, but somehow they still carried the essence of home in their laughter, drawing in a breath that felt deep as the Texan sky. Jack finally spoke. "This place is our lineage. It's where my father taught me values that shaped who I am today. I won't trade the love that grows here for the empty promises of wealth. The boardroom fell silent, the air thick with disbelief. A few eyes narrowed, incredulous that a man of his stature would refuse such a lucrative offer. But Jack's heart raced with purpose now. This was at the moment of truth. Cody stepped forward, his brows knit in a mix of confusion and anger. Dad, we don't just play football for fun anymore. It's our chance to make something of ourselves. Jack could feel the weighted objection hanging in the air. Was the divide between them unbridgeable? Maybe, but it's not just about your future. Jack's voice wavered, but he pressed on. It's about our past, what we stand to carry forward. Don't you feel it? The dust in the corners of our home speaks volumes. It tells stories of who we are. The road you guys are on, you can achieve great things, but don't forget where you come from. You have the choice to honor your roots or leave them behind in pursuit of fleeting glory. He watched closely as Cody's expression shifted, uncertainty creeping into his eyes. Would his words resonate? Luke stood silently, arms crossed, displaying the conflict brewing inside. The walls began to close in once again, the corporate rep looking momentarily vexed, but Jack chose to focus on the chance that shimmered in his son's expressions. A flicker of recognition. The air hummed with underlying tension, but Jack seized the moment. Together, we can find a way to pave a future that honors both land and passion. Let us rethink this situation, as a family. Both boys exchanged glances, an unguarded moment passing between them, their past colliding with the present. Jack slowly raised his chin, fueled by an inkling of hope that maybe they could find common ground. As the realization dawned, the door to their reconciliation creaked open. Jack felt the weight of every decision, every moment of doubt he had faced leading up to this confrontation. But this wasn't merely about preserving the ranch, it was about reigniting the familial bonds frayed by time and distance. A tension-filled silence lingered as they walked out of the boardroom. The journey to reclaim what truly mattered had just begun, and uncertainty draped heavy across their shoulders. But in the chamber of doubt and fear, a surprising resolve had been uncovered. The next morning, sitting together at the breakfast table, Jack fired a thought into the air. What if we turn this ranch into something that supports all our dreams? The idea sparked in their eyes thoughts of a hybrid life, something that could intertwine tradition with their passions. As Luke spoke about community sports events and Cody discussed building connections with the local schools, an unlikely path began to materialize before them. When faced with the final offer from the corporate giant, what pivot would they take? Would they hold their heritage close and forge a new legacy that united them all? The moment hung precariously, the next steps unsure, but their resolve slowly becoming unmistakable. Jack awoke that morning with the remnants of the previous day's tension still lingering in the corners of his mind. The breakfast table, neatly set and filled with the comforting aroma of coffee and pancakes, felt like a fragile truce rather than a familial gathering. He studied Luke and Cody as they pored over their phones, glancing occasionally at each other. This was their world now, technology interwoven with aspirations that Jack struggled to fully grasp. Boys, he began, his voice steady but his resolve unsteady, let us talk seriously about what we discussed yesterday. The hint of authority he attempted to inject into that statement felt both necessary and foreign. It was time to pivot from instinctual responses based on fear to a conversation grounded in mutual understanding. Cody's eyebrows shot up. You mean turning the ranch into something different? There was curiosity, tinged with skepticism in his tone, as if testing the waters before diving in. Yes. Something that retains its heart but embraces our dreams. Jack took a moment to collect his thoughts. I know about your plans in sports, about carving out careers rooted in your passion. What if this place could help you build that, our history igniting your futures? Luke shifted in his seat, the crease between his brows deepening. But what does that even look like? I mean, are we talking about a concession stand at local games or no, it's bigger? Jack leaned in, his heart rate accelerating with each word. I envision a training program for young players. We could partner with schools, host workshops, integrate our ranch as a sanctuary for those who need a place to learn. It can all start here. A burning fear accompanied Jack's ambition. Was he pushing too hard? He looked at their faces. Luke, who still wrestled with his dreams of becoming an elite player, Cody, with aspirations twinkling behind his youthful bravado. Did he have the right to redefine their heritage? Or was he merely displacing the responsibility of decision-making onto them? Dad, Cody hesitated, swallowing the tension that hung silently. Are we even capable of that? I mean, it's not just about the ranch. It's about relationships, moving beyond what is comfortable. I don't want to risk losing it all. Jack paused. His instinct was to dismiss the fear and forge ahead, but instead, insecurity ran cold through his veins. I understand. But if we don't take risks, what are we preserving? The space between them crackled with unfinished business as Cody let out a quiet sigh, wrestling with conflicting desires both to ascend and stay grounded. Luke's eyes softened, and for a moment, Jack bore witness to the gulf of uncertainty they were collectively traversing. Let us start small, Luke suggested, a glimmer of hope emerging. Maybe we could organize a few training sessions, invite local kids, see how it goes. If it clicks, then we explore larger ideas. There it was, a path born of compromise, a foundation upon which dreams could be built. Jack felt a warmth spread through him, an acknowledgement of collaborative possibility. Okay then, let us make a plan, he urged, the weight on his chest beginning to lift. They gathered their thoughts, scribbling down ideas, drafting a vision born from a combination of legacy and aspiration, innovating rather than discarding tradition. As the conversation flowed more freely, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. In stepping forward together, they were not merely allying their individual dreams, they were also rewriting the narrative of their family. Yet, a shadow loomed on the horizon, the specter of the corporate giants still standing tall and unyielding. How long could they sustain this newfound energy before the inevitable challenge emerged? Jack glanced at his sons, armed with hope and uncertainty intertwined. Knowing this was just the calm before the storm, his thoughts spiraled as they mapped out their path. What costs might follow their decisions? Would the corporate offers still linger like an unwelcome ghost, shadowing their every move? What choices would they face to protect the essence of their journey? The weight of the moment settled heavily. Jack felt the invitation of destiny knocking. Would they be strong enough to answer it, even as shadows of doubt followed them? Would they face what loomed, or would they falter in their stride towards something transformative? The prospect electrified and terrified him alike, a daunting promise that hung in the air. Together, they had taken the first steps toward redefining their legacy, yet the true test remained obstinately ahead. As the sun filtered through the kitchen window, Jack felt a surge of purpose intermingled with an undercurrent of fear. The flickers of hope ignited during breakfast had faded, replaced by the weight of uncertainty. It was time for action, but action without a clear plan could just as easily lead to collapse. In the following days, they met after school to shape their vision. Jack devised a structure, starting with free training sessions, combined with local school events to gather interested kids. They drafted flyers, used social media, and reached out to parents. The boys were abuzz with ideas, a palpable excitement building with each discussion. Yet underneath his enthusiasm, Jack wrestled with doubts. Was this just a distraction from the looming threat of the corporate offer? As Jack spoke with neighbors and former players, embedding the ranch deeper into the community, he discovered an unyielding desire in himself, one more about connection than financial gain. As they brainstormed the name for their program, a voice within him urged to emphasize unity rather than solitude. Let us call it Ranch Futures, Cody suggested one evening, his eyes gleaming. It's not just about sports, it's about building ourselves up together. Jack found affirmation in his son's vision, an urge that began to reshape his own sense of belonging and purpose. Each brainstorming session with Luke and Cody unveiled layers of unacknowledged ambition, not only for the ranch but for their growing familial bond. But as they prepared for their first training session, resistance began to rear its head. The days leading to the event brought unsettling messages from corporate stakeholders, seemingly aware of Jack's aspirations. Are you sure this is what you want? They questioned, including veiled yet enticing offers. Reassessing his priorities became crucial. Was he entangled in fear that success would necessitate sacrificing independence? He faced critiques from the business side of his family's legacy. Could he really stand firm against the allure of immediate financial security? The night before the first session, as Jack lay in bed, he indulged in those questions. Luke's and Cody's laughter echoed in his mind, their energy lifting the aura of anxiety surrounding the impending challenge. This is for them, he whispered to himself, not about the money. Morning dawned, and Jack awoke to the scent of damp earth mixed with determination. He could sense something pivotal was about to happen. Anticipation crackled in the air. They arranged the barn, the scent of hay mingling with the fresh breeze outside. They set up nets, cones, and a makeshift digital sign-up sheet, ready to greet hopeful aspiring players. As kids trickled onto the ranch, Jack's nervousness transformed into an electric focus. He watched as Luke took the lead, organizing drills and engaging with the children. Cody moved among the parents, introducing his vision, securing their trust. Successful connections blossomed before him. Each child who smiled meant that they were building more than skills, they were nurturing aspirations. But in the back of his mind, the specter of the corporate offer loomed larger than ever, hovering just beyond the horizon. That evening, the first session concluded on a high note. Laughter resonated through the barn, developing a ripple of hope across the ranch. The boys were ecstatic. They had witnessed authentic engagement, a foundation solidified. Yet, a nagging worry gnawed at Jack's core. That evening, a call came from the corporate entity, confirming a meeting for next week. A choice awaited him, a decision that could solidify their new path or lead them back to the security he had once known. How would he balance this haunting opportunity against the exhilarating momentum they just conjured at the ranch? As he hung up the phone, Jack realized the time had come to face this directly. Would he defend their burgeoning dream or buckle under pressure? The reality of what lay ahead sank in, mingled with exhilaration. There was no turning back, only the promise of a storm that could either shatter their ambition or refine it into something indomitable. Jack paced the barn, the echoes of laughter still lingering in the air, merging with the rising tide of uncertainty that threatened to drown his newfound commitment. The vibrant energy of the first session flashed through his mind, but even brighter was the looming prospect of the corporate meeting ahead. Each step felt heavier with the weight of the decision yet to be made. As days passed, the ranch thrummed with a life of its own. Free training sessions filled to capacity, kids eagerly ran drills, their faces flushed with excitement. Jack recognized a growing hunger within himself as he watched his sons nurture their leadership skills. Luke organized games while Cody deftly encouraged the younger kids, both embodying the principles Jack had hoped to instill. Yet the joy of watching them flourish was juxtaposed against the relentless pulse of corporate pressure, an adversary he could no longer ignore. In the quiet moments of reflection, Jack confronted the urgency of his reality. The soft hum of the ranch's activities often morphed into a cacophony of doubt in his mind. Had he truly stepped onto a path that encapsulated his vision? Or was it merely an escape from the gilded cage the corporate world promised? Those thoughts churned as he engaged with the community, each question from neighbors a reminder of what was at stake. One evening, after a particularly spirited session, Jack found himself standing with Luke and Cody by the barn, the setting sun painting the sky in hues of orange and lavender. "Dad," Luke said, his voice holding a weight that belied his age, "have you thought about what it would mean if you took their offer?" Jack wrestled with a response, his mind racing. It would mean security, a future, but at what cost? I don't want us to lose what we're building here. Cody chimed in, "We're not just talking about sports, we're talking about who we are as a family." His words struck deep. They were grappling with the heart of Jack's conflict, the tension between familial commitment and professional gain. A revelation settled over him like a comforting blanket. His sons had proven to him that their bond was worth defending, that the ranch was more than a business venture, it was a sanctuary. Inspired, Jack dove headfirst into refining the program. Late nights were spent developing curriculum ideas, and engaging local coaches who shared his vision of skill building and personal growth. Yet, even as he embraced this mission, the corporate offer loomed like a storm cloud. Daily, he received messages that blurred the line between friendly advice and emotional manipulation. "Think of what this could mean for you," they'd say, as if treading a fine line between encouragement and threat. Each message compounded Jack's internal struggle, reminding him of the lure of fiscal security against the backdrop of potential personal sacrifice. The balance between ambition and authenticity teetered perilously. He preferred working side by side with local families, fostering connections that mattered. Still, whispers of doubt flickered like shadows, reminding him that real life required real resources. How could he walk this tightrope without succumbing to the cold embrace of corporate expectation? The night before the meeting, Jack sat on the porch, illuminated by moonlight, a glass of whiskey in hand. He contemplated everything he had sacrificed and gained since envisioning this future. His thoughts settled on the laughter, the trust, and the dreams taking shape amongst the children, his sons leading the way. But as the sun rose the next morning, illuminating his resolve, Jack faced a paradox. The meeting was the next step, one he couldn't avoid, yet what if it challenged everything he was beginning to believe? Would he fight for the ranch's spirit, or fold under the weight of survival? With echoes of joy behind him and a fork ahead, Jack breathed deeply, a determination solidifying within him. The process of defining his identity had begun, but now the stakes felt incalculably higher. As he headed toward the inevitable confrontation, the most pressing question remained: could he protect their burgeoning dreams while negotiating survival in a world that offered easy paths cloaked in corporate shadows? Jack's drive toward the corporate office felt as tangible as the dust swirled up around his boots. Each crunch underfoot amplified the weight of his decision. The contrasts were glaring, the office a sterile environment, the hustle of suits and spreadsheets stood in stark opposition to the sunlit energies of the ranch. As he approached the polished glass doors, doubt snaked its way into his psyche, reminding him of what lay on the other side. Stepping inside, the air thickened with the scent of coffee and tension. Executives congregated in tight-knit clusters, their walls of professionalism solidifying his ambivalence. Jack's heart raced. Did he belong here? Voices trailed him as he made his way to the conference room, snippets of conversations oscillating between figures and forecasts. They lived in a world devoid of the warmth he had cultivated on the ranch. Striding toward his future, he took a deep breath, centering on the purpose driving him. Stories of kids growing, friendships forming, and the exhilarating feeling of joyous chaos overtook him. This wouldn't just be a decision for him, it impacted everyone depending on him. As he sat at the long, glossy table, a sense of purpose sharpened his focus. As the meeting commenced, the atmosphere turned electric. The corporate leaders, eyes shining with ambition, threw around terms like visionary and strategic growth. They dangled enticing projections, their words constructing a facade of security that both called to him and repulsed him. Jack felt a flicker of longing. If only ambition could be married to his principles. When his turn came, the room quieted. Instead of launching into a rehearsed pitch, Jack paused. The truth spilled out, raw and unwavering. I appreciate the opportunity, but I can't overlook that this isn't just about profit margins for me. It's about fostering a community. It's about my family and the values we're building together, not just on the ranch but in my sons. This is more than business, it's personal. He felt the eyes of his colleagues widen, the seasoned executives momentarily caught off guard. Jack's heart hammered in his chest, watching reactions unfold. Questions followed, probing deeper into his motivations. Some were skeptical, others intrigued. He navigated the queries like a tightrope walker, balancing honesty with professionalism. His conviction was palpable, a beacon that illuminated his true intentions. Each answer he provided further bleached the veil that corporate ambition often cast. As the discussion waned, Jack realized he had unearthed a defining moment within himself. He had chosen not only to stand firm but also to forge a narrative, one that tied his decisions to values rooted in family, integrity, and personal fulfillment. The success that was branded about was enticing, yet it paled in comparison to the fulfillment that swelled from watching children thrive under his guidance. Leaving the conference room was bittersweet. He could sense a resistance to his ideals among some of the executives. Still, Jack had stretched his resolve. With every step back through the sterile building, he grasped tighter onto the conviction that they would not undermine the essence of what he had built, but uncertainty remained. As he drove home, adrenaline still coursing through him, Jack faced an internal reckoning. Had he moved the needle? Would they hold his values in contempt, or might his words resonate with their own dormant aspirations? As he neared the gravel road leading to his beloved ranch, Jack felt a strange blend of hope and anxiety. His sons would be waiting, their radiant spirits like a lighthouse guiding him home. Yet the next few days would determine if he could transform their shared dream into reality or succumb to a world that knew nothing of his heart. The moment of reckoning loomed closer. Could he embrace the unexpected alliance, or would he once again be pulled toward unyielding corporate machinery? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow, Jack pondered the next steps that lay ahead. The true measure of courage was yet to be unfolded. Could he inspire change, or would he become change's casualty? Jack's mind spun in the aftermath of the impactful meeting. Each mile closer to home felt like an unseen force weighing heavy against his heart. The fading daylight mirrored the blur of thoughts racing through his consciousness. Would any of his colleagues truly understand the significance of his stance? Would they remember the man behind the numbers, the values that drove him? Or would they dismiss him as a relic of an idealism they believed had no place in the corporate jungle? He parked in front of the ranch, the sight of his sons laughing in the yard grounding him momentarily. The cacophony of their joy, the sound of laughter rising into the evening air, wrapped around him like a warm embrace. It was a reminder of everything he was striving to protect and preserve. As he stepped out of the truck, Jack inhaled deeply, the scent of the earth mixed with fresh hay igniting a familiar sense of purpose and dedication. "Hey, Dad!" his youngest shouted, darting toward him with unrestrained enthusiasm. Jack knelt to catch him, their embrace a soft anchor amidst the stirrings of doubt within. "Did you have a good day?" he asked, ruffling the boy's hair, his heart swelling as he watched their innocence play against the backdrop of his internal conflict. "It was awesome. We helped with the new cabs," the boy exclaimed, his excitement palpable. Jack reflected for a moment on how simple moments like these bore fruits that corporate meetings could never replicate. As dinner preparations unfolded, Jack found himself wrestling with questions. The conversation in the office had shifted something in him. It resonated, igniting a desire to pursue greater alignment between his business aspirations and personal values. With every bite of the hearty meal, he felt compelled to share the reality of his day. "Guys, I talked about how our ranch isn't just about keeping the cows healthy or selling produce," he revealed, gauging the reactions of his sons. "It's about creating a home, a place where people can be part of something bigger." His eldest son, perched at the kitchen table, narrowed his eyes thoughtfully. "But Dad, if that is true, then why do you do that business stuff? Isn't that just about money?" Jack hesitated. "It is, but it can also be something that helps spread our values, teach others what we've built." He caught a flicker of skepticism in his boy's gaze and felt the familiar tension return. The struggle to reconcile the necessity of profit with the purity of purpose weighed on him like a mantle he never chose. He understood well the lessons of hard work that his father passed down. But as he looked into his son's eyes, he recognized the challenge ahead. His own sons expected him to guide them not just through success, but through integrity. There was potential for change. Jack realized if only he could connect with those executives meaningfully and persuade them that values and profits need not clash. A challenge lay before him. Could he drive that message without losing what he cherished most? "Tomorrow, I'll go back. I need to bring this conversation to another level, show them what this means. Maybe we can build a bridge between here and there," he said, determination hardening his voice. His sons' faces lit up, sensing the change in him. "Are you gonna be a superhero, Dad?" his youngest asked, eyes wide with admiration. Jack's laughter filled the room, a soft balm against his doubts. "Something like that." As he tucked them into bed that night, a plan unfurled in his mind: how to truly impact those corporate warriors, how to turn them into allies instead of adversaries. But as he pulled away from their rooms, the tension returned, heavier than before. Could he genuinely shift perspectives in an environment traditionally resistant to such ideals? The road ahead twisted with uncertainty, but Jack was determined. The next day would hold a challenge that tested not only his resolve but his capacity to lead with unwavering purpose. He couldn't shake the feeling that the stakes were higher than ever. Tomorrow, he knew, would be the moment he faced the real test, bracing himself for an unexpected confrontation on corporate grounds. Would the seed of change take root, or would he find himself grappling with rejection yet again? The early morning sun streamed through the bedroom window, casting warm rays over Jack's face. He stirred, feeling the weight of the day ahead already pressing down upon him. He rose to prepare for the inevitable confrontation, but also for the possibility of change. Today, he would gather his most persuasive arguments, the core of his convictions, to present to a room filled with skeptics. After breakfast, he stepped into the ranch yard, where the sweet smell of freshly cut grass mingled with the sounds of nature waking up. This was where he felt most grounded, yet it was within these familiar confines that he began to question his ability to blend the ideals of ranch life with corporate ambition. He couldn't help but reflect on how his father's teachings shaped him, a blend of resolve and a steadfast commitment to values that often seemed to divide him from the corporate realities he now faced. As Jack loaded his truck with materials for the meeting, he paused to watch his sons play. The sight of them joyful, carefree, and oblivious to the world's complexities reminded him of why he needed to succeed. He wanted to teach them that success was about more than numbers, it was about integrity, legacy, and the connections he could cultivate. The tug of duty and aspiration gnawed at him, fueling a complex fire of motivation. The drive to the office ran parallel to his swirling thoughts of strategies and persuasive techniques. Jack practiced his lines, envisioning each colleague's face and the reactions he hoped to evoke. What if he presented not only a compelling argument but a vision? An image of sustainable success that intertwined profit with purpose. He had to nail this. When he arrived, a sense of foreboding washed over him, but he quickly suppressed it. As he walked through the halls, he focused on staying present, forcing himself to breathe through the knots of tension that formed in his stomach. Today would be a turning point, he told himself, confidently striding into the conference room where they had all met before. The mood was tense, the air felt thick as he took his seat at the table. The executives filed in, piling their issues and concerns atop the existing agenda like boulders in a stream. Jack adjusted papers in front of him, his heart racing. He could use their skepticism as a springboard for change. "Thank you all for gathering," Jack started, his voice steadying as he met their eyes. He could feel their judgment, but he had to push through. He laid out the vision of a ranch built on values that could resonate on a corporate scale. He painted a picture of a new path for the company, one defined by collaboration, community impact, and sustainability alongside profitability. Yet, as he spoke, he noticed their expressions shift. The outright dismissal was replaced by furrowed brows and murmurs of speculation. Doubt crept back, but he pressed on, fueled by the desire to bridge the gap between his world and theirs. "Imagine a company that embodies its values, a brand that stands for more than just the bottom line," he urged, his voice rising and gathering emotion. "What if the profits we generate could fuel initiatives that develop real connections with our community? Imagine the loyalty we decultivate among consumers and employees alike." Just as he began to feel momentum swell, a familiar executive interjected, his arms crossing, skepticism radiating from every corner of his demeanor. "Jack, that sounds good in theory, but how do we reconcile that with quarterly returns? How do we convince shareholders to back such moves?" Jack's heart raced, but he welcomed the challenge. This was the very confrontation he needed. By showing them that values can drive profits, we must shift the narrative. "I know firsthand the power of building trust within a community. I've seen it right here on the ranch. We need to reflect those values in our business practices to create long-term sustainability." As he spoke, Jack realized the battle would not just be against their skepticism, but his own lingering self-doubt. Could he remain steadfast in his beliefs when met with resistance? "Let us not think about today's quarterly report but rather what our legacy will be," he concluded, hoping the fire of his passion would stir something in their long-held convictions. But as he watched their responses, he sensed more than just resistance. He glimpsed the opportunity for growth for him and his colleagues. This was more than a corporate meeting, it was a platform for revolution. Yet as the faces around the table deliberated, he couldn't shake the gnawing uncertainty. Would he inspire the change he so desperately sought? As he wrapped up, he was left wondering, was he standing on the threshold of a new era, or at the brink of an insurmountable wall? The moment to truly impact them was fast approaching, and Jack felt the weight of all he had ever valued resting on these precarious discussions. Could his vision take root, or would he find himself wrestling with rejection yet again? Jack sat in the silence after his conclusion, the tension thick in the air. As he watched the executives exchange glances, he felt his pulse quicken in response to every flicker of their expressions. They were not unmoved, that much was clear. But their hesitation stung, resonating through Jack's psyche. What if he had miscalculated? He clenched his fists under the table, a silent reminder to stay grounded. The feelings of inadequacy loomed large over him. He was not only fighting for the company, he was battling against years of conditioning that had embedded self-doubt deep within. As one executive raised a hand to speak, Jack braced himself, anticipating the familiar sting of skepticism. "Jack, I didn't hear a concrete plan and all of that," the executive stated bluntly. "Vision is one thing, but without a strategic roadmap, it won't resonate. Our shareholders need specifics. Jack could feel the moisture rise in his throat. Specifics. That was the crux of it. He had dazzled them with passion, but had he equipped himself with the right tools? Memories of his father's unyielding approach to planning flooded in. The lessons on strategy echoed now, urging clarity in his message. Right. Absolutely. He nodded, searching his mind for specifics. What if I gather a team to form a working group that explores potential initiatives? We can research how other companies have managed to align purpose with profit. Nods of acknowledgement coursed through the room. Jack's pulse slowed just a fraction. Perhaps earnestness could win them over, if tempered with actionable steps. He built on that momentum. We could start with a pilot program implementing changes on a smaller scale. For instance, re-evaluating our supply chain for sustainable practices. As the conversation began to flow more freely, Jack felt a glimmer of hope. This was turning into something fruitful, something that could foster real change. He allowed himself a moment of pride, acknowledging that his persistence was starting to penetrate their hardened facades, yet as his confidence grew, so did another realization, one that hadn't been fully confronted. That very conversation was illuminating a stark truth buried within him. He was terrified of failure, yes, but even more, he was equally afraid of succeeding on terms that strayed from his core values. What might that success look like? Would he lose the very essence of what drove him? These reflections roamed through Jack's mind as he guided the discussion back to tangible strategies. The more they engaged, the closer he felt to the vision he had for the company. It was not enough just to present an idea, he had to demonstrate that aligning values with business could yield a transformative impact. As the meeting progressed, the air shifted, infused now with anticipation rather than resistance. A sense of purpose blossomed, feeling as if it could harness every person's aspirations sitting around the table. He caught snippets of nods and positive murmurs that marked this meeting as pivotal. Even with this newfound momentum, Jack was struck by a nagging question: could he truly lead them down this path without sacrificing his principles? Might he be tempted to compromise what he cherished about ranch life for the elusive allure of corporate success? When the meeting concluded, a flurry of proposals and discussions ensued regarding future steps. Jack left the room buoyed by their engagement, yet apprehensive about the road ahead. It was one thing to advocate for change, but another to ensure that change breathed life into their core ethos rather than diluting it. As he descended the stairwell to his car, the weight of the day pressed down anew. His doubts swirled like a tempest within, battling against the optimism that had taken root. Could this be the flame he needed to ignite both the company's direction and his own evolution as a leader? Or would he find himself grappling with the specter of commercial obligation, losing sight of the values he held dear? The answers remained just out of reach, but the next chapter of his journey had begun. And as he started the truck, one thought remained: he was at the edge of something transformative, even if it meant facing a new confrontation with himself. Tomorrow would bring more discussions, more questions. But one thing was certain: he needed to dig deeper, to carve out not just a path for the company's future, but for the man he was becoming. Little did he know, a defiant confrontation with a key ally awaited, testing everything he had fought for thus far. As dawn broke over the Texas horizon, Jack "Big Tex" Thompson awakened with a newfound determination that surged through his veins. The sleepless night had stirred something within him, an urgency to create a future that united his family's legacy with their aspirations. The challenges he faced at the corporate meeting echoed in his mind, but today would be different. Today, he would put into motion the dreams that had awakened through vulnerability and resolve. Jack stepped outside to find his sons already at work, transforming the ranch into a hub of activity that embraced their individual strengths. Luke was leading drills with an infectious enthusiasm, while Cody helped organize logistics, ensuring kids felt at ease in this space of growth. Jack's heart swelled with pride. The ranch was no longer just a piece of land, it had become a sanctuary that breathed new life into each family member's ambition. "Boys," he called, gathering them to him, the morning sun casting a golden glow around them. "Let us take ranch futures further. Today, we're reaching out to local media, showing the community that our vision is alive, vibrant, and ready to inspire." The enthusiasm in their eyes mirrored Jack's hope. They too were now champions of the new initiative. Each step toward visibility deepened their bond, and with every flyer they designed and every social media post they crafted, the confidence that had once eluded Jack transformed into a palpable momentum. As the weekend approached, the ranch buzzed with excitement. That evening, the trio hosted an open house to showcase their mission. The barn was adorned with colorful graphics about youth empowerment, teamwork, and the joy of sports. When families arrived, Jack felt a surge of fulfillment. The energy shifted, echoing with laughter and connecting lives in ways he had only dreamed of before. Conversations flowed, and Jack found himself listening intently as parents shared stories of their children's aspirations. "I never knew this place could mean so much," one mother said, her eyes shimmering with appreciation. "It's inspiring to see how you're building a future, not just for them, but for everyone." Those words struck a chord, amplifying Jack's sense of purpose as he embraced the affirmation. Throughout the evening, Luke and Cody moved in tandem, each directing families toward activities, demonstrating skills, and igniting the passion for ranch-based education. Their leadership glowed with recognition, and in those moments, Jack saw a reflection of his own lengthy journey of growth, a transition from isolation to collaboration. Then came the unexpected. A reporter from the local newspaper, intrigued by the enthusiasm pouring out of the barn. Jack welcomed her with open arms, expressing how they aimed to intertwine passion for sports with important life values, honing not only athletic skills but future leaders. The article that followed painted the ranch in a beautiful light, heralding it as a beacon of hope and transformation within the community. Jack beamed with pride when he saw his sons' names featured alongside his own in print, a tangible acknowledgement of their hard labor and effort. Back home, nestled in his chair with a glass of iced tea, Jack reflected on how far they had come in such a brief span of time. The shadows of corporate uncertainty lingered, whispering doubts about whether they could sustain this momentum. Yet, he silenced the noise, reminding himself that true success lay not in financial gain, but in nurturing the bonds he had fought so hard to rekindle with his sons. In that moment, he realized that every challenge had paved the way for each victory. They were conquering their fears together. As the days turned into weeks, feedback from local schools poured in. Parents praised not just the skill improvement, but the sense of camaraderie cultivated at the ranch. The community began to rally around Ranch Futures, their enthusiasm cementing it as an integral aspect of smaller kids' development. Jack stood before his sons and their growing group of young athletes, their shared laughter coursing through the open fields, illustrating a profound truth: family and legacy were worth fighting for. The corporate giant's persistent pressure simmered beneath the surface, sending reminders of the offer still on the table. Jack had initially feared the meeting's outcome would sink his dreams, yet now he recognized it represented a looming opportunity, a chance to expand their platform into something greater. Encouraged by his sons, Jack decided he would return to corporate offices, but this time, he wasn't just carrying obligations, he was bringing a vision fortified by collective experience. "Let us propose a partnership," he shared with Luke and Cody one evening, ideas flowing effortlessly. "What if those who threaten our land could also support our mission?" With their unwavering support, Jack stepped back into the corporate meeting, this time not to negotiate surrender but rather to forge a bridge between both worlds. He positioned his proposal boldly, advocating how Ranch Futures could align with corporate interests not just as a means to profit but as an opportunity to create real, lasting impact in the community. His courage reverberated throughout the room, igniting conversations around implications and authenticity. The dynamics began to shift, revealing a consensus, a willingness to explore alternative investments that respected tradition while embracing innovation. The spirit of collaboration began to emerge, transforming the corporate giants into potential allies rather than threats. Jack recognized that this wasn't just a victory for the ranch, it was a triumph of mindset. As he returned home that evening, a sense of weightlessness washed over him. Jack felt he had not only preserved the ranch but redefined its legacy. With the prospect of financial stability on the horizon, he had transformed ingrained doubt into steadfast conviction. He had shown himself and his sons that they were not just protectors of a property, but pioneers of a project that honored both the past and the future. In Jack's heart, fulfillment resounded strong, far eclipsing monetary measures. The journey had been arduous but necessary. Now he stood firm with both his sons at his side, resolute and transformed, ready to face whatever challenge loomed ahead. As the stars twinkled in the Texas sky, the ranch hummed with the laughter of children, love, and the prospect of new beginnings. Jack Thompson had finally unraveled the greatest truth of all, that it was never about being defined by challenges, but thriving in the light of overcoming them. Together, and now is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this inspiring journey alive. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion, and comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Your engagement means the world. Let us create waves of transformation together.